Have you ever felt this? You love deeply. You tune into every emotional shift. You try to heal and hold space while the other person withdraws, goes silent, and avoids you as if closeness is a threat. If that hits home, then this video is for you. Hi, I'm Jima, deep researcher of attachment psychology and emotional behavior, and today, we're exposing a truth few dare to name. The avoidant doesn't fear you, they fear who you become when you stop chasing. This video isn't about blame. I honor every backstory, every wound formed in childhood, and I know avoidants aren't heartless. They simply lack the language to face emotion. But when an empath, who spent years soothing, explaining, shrinking themselves to fit another's comfort, stops doing that, what happens? A reversal of power. A confrontation between clarity and avoidance. And you know what? Silence is no longer control. The once soft-spoken empath becomes a mirror, and the avoidant must face what they've been running from all along, the truth. In today's video, I'll walk you through the dynamics of the chase-retreat loop, why the empath becomes the wake-up call, and how you can reclaim your power, not with anger, but with calm truth and emotional boundaries. If you've ever felt stuck in this cycle, hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and stay with me to the end, because this might not just be a video, it might be the beginning of the emotional freedom you've always deserved. After that moment of powerful awakening when the empath stops being the soother, we now dive deeper into the psychological mechanism between the empath and the avoidant to understand why these seemingly opposite souls are so magnetically drawn to each other. One craves connection, the other fears closeness. One sees intimacy as home, the other sees intimacy as a trap. And when these two worlds meet, it's not just a relationship, it's an emotional electromagnetic field full of tension. The empath is deeply attuned to others' emotional states. They don't just hear words, they feel the pauses, the slight eyebrow twitch, the off-rhythm breath. Raised in an environment where emotional connection was somewhat present, they learned that love means understand, feel, stay. The avoidant, however, often grew up in an emotional desert where feelings were dismissed. Vulnerability meant weakness, and closeness felt like captivity. They never stopped needing love, they simply stopped believing it was safe to want it. So what happens when these two begin a relationship? At first, it feels like they balance each other. The empath brings warmth, emotional nuance, and attentiveness. The avoidant brings calm, independence, and a sense of steadiness. But as intimacy deepens, the invisible gap widens. The empath starts asking deeper questions. What are you feeling? Where are we? Do you see me? While the avoidant goes quiet, changes the subject, or escapes into work or solitude. Thus begins the chase-retreat dynamic. The more the empath senses distance, the more they give, more messages, more patience, more forgiveness. But the more they give, the more they're pushed away. Meanwhile, the avoidant feels suffocated by this steady emotional heat. They don't know what to do with consistent care. To them, love has always come with risk. Emotional safety feels suspicious. Overwhelmed, they pull back, not out of malice, but because their nervous system associates closeness with danger, not support. The result? An endless chase. The empath grows weary of carrying the emotional weight alone, while the avoidant feels overwhelmed yet dependent on the stability the empath brings. They don't know how to stand still in connection because they were never taught how. And the empath doesn't understand why all the love they're pouring in only drives the other person further away. But here's the key. It's no one's fault. Is emotional awareness and personal agency. And exactly at that intersection where the empath no longer chases and the avoidant stops running, a new possibility for healing emerges. In the next section, we'll explore that transformation where self-respect, stillness, and truth can shake even the most deeply embedded emotional defenses. Building on the psychological mechanics revealed in Part 2, we now enter the turning point when the empath reaches their boundary and decides to fully arrest the pursuit. Like a silent river reversing its course, they no longer beg, no longer rationalize, no longer reshape themselves to fit someone else's comfort. They step away from the healer role to become a reflective mirror, simple, powerful, and unwaveringly true. When the empath hits their limit, there's no dramatic outburst. They announce themselves with purposeful silence. No more replies, no more reaching out, no more silent endurance. And it's this calm clarity that the avoidant cannot ignore, because when the one who always chased suddenly stops, that is the strongest message. I'm no longer chasing you. If you want us to continue, you have to choose connection, not me. It causes the avoidant to pause. The familiar power dynamic is gone. No pursuit, no evasion, just two individuals standing still, like mirrors facing each other. And that stillness carries immense power. It doesn't destroy, but it reveals. It doesn't attack, but it exposes. It doesn't retreat, yet it eradicates any escape routes for the other. The empath begins articulating their reality. When you withdraw, it leaves me feeling unsafe. No blame, shifting, just honest acknowledgement. This final invitation, see me, truly see me, or I won't pretend anymore. That mirror forces the avoidant to confront the defenses they've spent their life reinforcing, defenses that no longer hold. What's remarkable is that the empath doesn't try to reclaim control. They don't shout, they don't lash out, they don't use tears as weapons. Instead, they anchor themselves in steadfast, calm, unwavering clarity and self-respect. In doing so, they declare, "You can't manipulate my emotions through your silence." Those words rupture the safety zone the avoidant has woven around themselves for so long. In that moment, the avoidant faces a crossroads. Continue fleeing deeper into their emotional shell or pause in a new silence. Silence that demands they look inward with courage. Few choose the latter, but it is the only path toward genuine change. It's only when the avoidant sees what they've been concealing that they gain the potential to face themselves, and by doing so, learn to lean into the serenity that healthy connection can bring. In this turning point, where the empath stops healing and starts reflecting, the relationship is confronted with a fundamental question. Can the avoidant recognize this truth, muster the courage to break old defense patterns, and face their fear of intimacy? Or will they continue running into the void of emotional disconnectedness? And at this moment, a new door opens. If the avoidant stays, if they dare to meet the empath's still gaze, then a new kind of relationship can emerge, not one based on chasing or evading, but on mutual presence, where both partners take responsibility for their emotions. Sacrifice no longer rules, autonomy governs. This is the moment of the greatest risk and the greatest hope. Building on the turning point where the empath stops healing and becomes the mirror, we now examine the childhood roots of these two attachment types, as understanding the past is essential to avoiding repetition and to opening the path toward a genuinely healthy relationship. As for the avoidant, childhood often unfolds in an environment where emotions are dismissed or overlooked. This is where they learn that feelings are dangerous. Their tears go unanswered. Their anxieties are ignored. Instead, they are taught to be strong by shutting down. They retreat into an internal fortress, locking away emotional vulnerability. They never learn to say, "I'm sad" or "I'm afraid." Instead, they learn to withdraw, to retreat, or coldly rationalize as self-defense. Years later, they may appear calm, but inside, their nervous system remains on guard, conditioning them to treat intimacy as peril, not refuge. On the other hand, the empath is raised in a more emotionally attuned environment where tears are comforted, feelings are acknowledged, and empathy is modeled. They learn through gentle words, soothing embraces, and mindful attention that caring for others is a way to affirm their worth. Consequently, they become deeply attuned to emotional cues. They often become natural healers, willing to shrink themselves to meet the needs of others. Behind this willingness, however, lies a hidden danger, a belief that I'm only valuable if I save someone else, a coping mechanism rooted in childhood validation for emotional caretaking. When these two meet, their childhood scripts replay on the same stage. The avoidant cannot express emotion because emotional expression was once met with neglect. The empath feels compelled to fill that emotional void because caring made them feel valuable. Although their dynamic may initially feel complementary, cold meets warm, logical meets nurturing, it creates a parasitic emotional loop that eventually drains both. Breaking this cycle isn't about loving harder, it's about learning to love differently. For the avoidant, the challenge is to acknowledge their own emotional world, anger, sadness, fear, and feel safe enough to voice it, even if only to themselves. To unlearn the childhood message that emotional expression equals weakness, they must realize that feeling does not equate to instability, but to being human. For the empath, the challenge is to set emotional boundaries, not trying to save a relationship at the cost of their own well-being. They need to love in a way that honors both themselves and others, to embrace the truth that my worth isn't defined by how much I make others feel better. When boundaries are set, they evolve from healer to companion, still empathetic, but willing to stand firm. And at that intersection where the avoidant stops hiding and the empath stops rescuing, change becomes possible. When an avoidant says, "I'm scared," instead of withdrawing. When an empath says, "I need you to hear me, not fix me," a new kind of relationship arises. One without demands, without losing autonomy, without blind saving. So let your past teach but not define you. Avoidance isn't strength, and saving isn't salvation. True love is about emotional equality and personal accountability. When both partners accept this, their relationship transforms, not a chase-evade dance, but a shared presence where both are home, both are seen, and both are responsible for the emotional balance they create. Following the exploration of childhood origins and the empath's pivotal transformation into a reflective mirror, we arrive at the most crucial phase, where the relationship can genuinely transform if both choose to stay, face silence, and relinquish the chase. This transformation doesn't happen miraculously, but through the empath's self-respect, calm, and refusal to chase or flee. When the empath maintains composure, clearly defined boundaries, and strong self-esteem, they no longer serve as the emotional caretaker of the avoidant. Instead, they stand firm, speak gently. "You withdraw when I need you most. I need to feel your presence." Their calm is not passive, it is active preservation of their worth. For the avoidant, this marks a profound shift. They're no longer puppeteering emotional distance. They must choose, stay or flee, but not unconsciously. This moment creates a neurological jolt for the avoidant. A familiar coping reflex encounters resistance. Their habitual withdrawal is rendered ineffective because the empath refuses to play their game. Control is stripped away, and a real choice emerges: confront your feelings or withdraw forever. If the avoidant chooses to stay, the shift is revolutionary. Before them lies a new reality, safety established through presence-no compliance, not sacrifice, but authenticity and mutual acknowledgement. This is the hallmark of a secure attachment, feeling safe to be near, without the pressure to prove oneself. They become a true partner, not just someone to be pursued. This transformation unfolds gradually, perhaps starting with a simple statement, "I'm here whenever you're ready." Then comes shared silenceless emptiness, more conscious stillness. Eventually, the avoidant utters words they might never have before. "I'm scared." That declaration, though small, represents a monumental shift. "I'm ready to face what once terrified me." From that point, the relationship evolves. The chase-avoid pattern dissolves into slow emotional resonance. The empath learns to be present without going beyond themselves. The avoidant learns that love can be healing, not threatening. Both grow grounded in honesty, mutual responsibility, and mindful presence. If the avoidant ultimately decides not to stay, that is still progress. The empath ends with clarity, not bitterness. "I deserve someone who chooses to stay," no longer chasing, no longer pleading. And while the story may end, within them the old wounds soften, replaced by self-respect and the faith that one day they will find someone who chooses to stay. Remember, when an empath holds their boundaries with strength and opens their heart with grace, that is how a relationship can shift from a chase and retreat conflict to a shared journey of mutual healing. From the pivotal moment in Part 5, when the empath stands firm in boundaries, calmness, and openness, we transition into what matters most. This is not a battlefield, it is a journey of maturity. Every scar comes from childhood. No one is wholly at fault. Both empath and avoidant have been wounded. Both once believed that love equals pain. The difference lies in the fact that often the empath finds the courage to stand tall, acknowledge their own worth, and stop sacrificing themselves for someone else's comfort. There is no winner or loser here. The real fight has never been between two partners, it's the lingering pain from their past. The avoidant isn't a fugitive, nor is the empath a rescuer. They both carry childhood burdens. One was never allowed emotional expression. The other was loved only if they remained gentle and compliant. Each pain is steeped in time, and both deserve to be loved, seen, and heal. Most importantly, when the empath dares to stop running after the relationship, they discover that they don't have to vanish to be loved. When the empath calmly declares, "I am sufficient even if I don't play the healer in this chapter," they're making a profound statement not just to their partner, but to their soul. They realize that maturity doesn't come from disappearing to be loved, it comes from standing firmly in who they are. For the avoidant, that doesn't mean immediate transformation, but when they face the empath's steady presence and the gentle demand for real connection, they begin to glimpse another path, a life where intimacy restores, not depletes. And it is true only when they truly feel safe in emotional closeness can they begin to let down their walls and embrace vulnerability. And even if they don't stay, that's not tragedy. The empath neither triumphs nor fails. They are not abandoned for being not enough, but because their partner isn't ready to grow. The story continues in a positive direction, an ongoing journey towards someone who is willing to walk alongside growth, not shy away from it. Ultimately, a stable relationship isn't born from sacrifice, it's born from mutual commitment to self-growth and respect. In this journey, the empath becomes the initiator, the first, to break free from the cycle of pain and model a new form of love. A love that doesn't demand smallness, but stands as a strong, steady presence between two mature individuals. That is transformative love, a love that transcends conflict where both partners walk together on the path of healing. And if you are the empath reading this, remember, stopping is not losing. Stopping doesn't mean giving up. Stopping means you've chosen to say, "I exist through my own worth." Stopping is the decisive act of a pioneer forging a path of maturity and healing, not just for yourself, but for anyone brave enough to join you. If you've made it this far, chances are your heart has known the weight of an unbalanced relationship. Perhaps you're the empathy one who stayed silent, explained endlessly, held on with hope until you lost sight of your own needs. But let this be your turning point. You don't have to carry that weight anymore, not in anger, but in awakening. You don't need to scream to be heard, you just need to stand still and calmly say, "I'm here, but I will not lose myself again." That's where transformation begins. That's where you stop chasing those who only know how to leave and start walking closer toward your own truth. If you're the avoidant, maybe you're reading this with a mix of curiosity and fear. That's okay. We all avoid intimacy when it threatens to reopen old wounds. But remember, real love doesn't consummate, anchors you, and you don't have to keep running. All it takes is one moment of courage, one honest breath to open the door toward connection and healing. I'm Jim and I believe in grown-up love. Love where both people are allowed to fully exist, without shrinking, without performing. If this message speaks to your soul, subscribe, share, and stay close, because healing doesn't happen through magic. It begins when you dare to face the truth and choose yourself.